Hello, welcome to the Esoteric Software stream. My name is Erika, and today we will be brewing a little potion using physics constraints inside Spine. For this I've prepared a little project just to see if it worked, and you can find the link to the material in the description of the video. Now, the interesting aspect of this is that we'll be creating some dynamic liquids inside Spine, and we'll control the level of the liquids using the clipping as well as other little tricks that I'm going to show you. So yeah, the focus for today's session will be around not just physics constraints, but also some skins as well as clipping. I'm going to show you a finished version of what you can expect it to do by the end. So it will look something like this. We're going to find the potion.psd file. We're going to import that. Now, because I'm on Windows, I can just drag and drop that, and so I'm absolutely gonna be doing that. And then I'm going to be setting that to the PSD path, so it automatically creates the images inside the place where I have the PSD, so you're going to see it there. Let's import. So a little backstory on this potion, that this was actually made to create some little guidance about PSDs, but then I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we also use these during a stream to make, you know, a little nice fun project. So if you want, you can study the PSD to see the tags and how they work, how they translate inside Spine. Just deactivate for now the bubbles, as potions are usually nice to have inside games, especially if they have magic elements. I think that this is going to be a useful project for many of you. As usual, I'm going to disassemble a little bit the project so we can see how it's supposed to work. So here we have the cork. Okay, so the cork can also be removed. Maybe we are going to animate that, I don't know. Then here is the top part. As you see, it has a bit of a transparency, but not everywhere, especially not here, so it could cover nicely the lines that I had, because I don't know, I wasn't sure what to do about that, but I decided to use it this way. Then we have some backlight in here, more backlight, and a third backlight. There's never enough light, right? Then here we have the round glass, which is very transparent, and the reflection that actually has the blending additive set on it. In the original version of these, I also added 3 skins, a blue, a red, and a white one. I think this time I'm gonna focus on the white version of this skin, as from that I can derive basically any color, whereas with red and blue I can only have the red and blue versions because they're already tinted outside of Spine. Why would you want to have these two, however, instead of a white version that you can just tint? Well, maybe because you want to be able to use tint black or other effects. Show you what I mean. Tint black. Okay, if I try to use it here, okay, I can tint it in any color that I want, and then this way it works. If instead I try to tint this white version here first in red like this, and then I try to apply the tint black, which actually is already added, then you'll see that the effect doesn't work. Okay, it works here. It works here because the tinting we apply directly on the attachment is going to be multiplied on top, and so it kind of destroys the effect. So that's one reason to have a separate set of images in case you want to combine it with tint black, which by the way also has to be enabled at runtime to work in case you want to use it. But if that's not the case, then it's perfectly acceptable to use the white tinted version of these, where we can derive any color, including the red version. Okay, now back to the original here. As you see, it is a little bit transparent, and the top is completely dark. Also, what can we notice about the liquid? That there is basically a straight line here, which I've realized afterwards that can be cut precisely at the half of the top circle. And originally, because I wanted to show different sets of images and how slots can be used, I also made some different versions where the liquid is maybe halfway. Okay, then we need to also activate the half set also here, and so we have it brewing less or more. But then after running some experiments, I have come to the conclusion that it's fine to use the full version and derive every other animation from it. And then we can achieve also that very nice effect where the liquid seamlessly translates from one state to the next. I already created a round glass bone inside the PSD because I wanted it centered around the round glass image so that it could rotate like this perfectly. So what I'd like to be able to do with this potion is have the liquid be able to change level. Have the liquid react also to the movement of the potion itself, or when we move the entirety of the project. Then I thought it would be cool to add maybe some animation where the cork uncorks, if that's English, or well, where something happens, there's an interaction that justifies the liquid changing level. And yeah, that's the idea, and also the interactive colors. If I want this round glass to be able to be controlled by physics, we need to give it a length y, because if I just create a physics constraint as is, and then I try to move the root around, what happens is that it kind of bounces like this. But I sort of want it to tilt. For the tilting to be able to happen, the bone needs to have a length, otherwise it will just translate and not rotate. So I am going to give it a length. I'm going to select round glass and set in the properties, while I'm in setup mode, a length of, I don't know, 300. Now the orientation for this is not great, so I'm going to enable images and bones compensation and set the rotation to 90 degrees so it points up like this. Then I'm going to maybe make it a little bit longer. How about like this? So it's as long as the circle, more or less. I'm gonna round the number here because I like round numbers. Let's compare the result of the physics constraint that I'm going to add now. Boom, we have a physics constraint. Let's move the root around. Yeah, without a compensation. Let's move the root around. It does a nice wobble. That's great. That's gonna be the first step. So the next thing after allowing the motion to magically move on its own when we move a bone is to also add a control so that the liquid can bounce inside the glass. Okay, round glass is actually fine. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to create a new magical assistant, that is to say, a new bone, in the middle of where this is. So I could place it in world axis, parent axis is actually fine. New bone, and it will create it on the tip, but this is one of those rare cases where I prefer it where the bone begins. So I'm going to set the translation to 0, so now it matches there. Why? Because I want the liquid, when it rotates, to be centered. I am going to parent liquid and liquid top to it, so that when that rotates or does other things, it is going to follow. I think I'm gonna start by creating a test animation for this. Oh, it's so cute when it bounces. Okay, I'm going to move it here and then key it, and then get it to be where it was in the beginning and give it a little bit of rest. Okay, so I can test a little bit what is going to happen. I think I'm gonna make it a tad longer and have it go in every corner. So here I want it to go up and then stay up. I need another key. Then I need these to also slow down a little bit the liquid. So if I simply add another physics constraint, I'm going to get the same result as before. I'll show you the difference. Okay, so you see that the liquid goes outside of the potion. That's not great. So once again, I want it to rotate inside, and so the trick to get that to work is to give the liquid here once again a length. So I'll assign a length of 300. It should be fine. And then when I'll create the physics constraint this time, it is going to, follow, but at a slower pace. However, while this works for the main mass of the liquid, we kind of want something a bit more refined for the top so that it looks like the water is watering. It's moving like water is supposed to move. And that's where where things get a bit interesting. So I'm navigating to where the liquid top slot is, expanding that. I want to open the liquid top full version. For white, if you don't see these, it's because I have the show all skin attachments setting on, which shows all the skin attachments that I have. I like to have control over everything and know what is inside my skeleton. So here I'm going to turn this into a mesh, edit this mesh, and then I'm going to create a structure for this mesh so that it can look like actual water. Okay, nothing too complex. I think I'm going to, let's see, can I generate at first some vertices, something like this? So for me this works because I need to have these 5 sections. I want to avoid having a middle vertex here because this is a curved surface, and so it is better to make a surface seem flat, especially around here, if I don't place a spike in the middle, but instead on the sides. So then I have 2 little things to make it curved. That should sort of work. Then I could create orange lines for these, just to let you understand better how I'm structuring this. From version 4.2 onwards, there's also the very useful snapping feature. So whenever I go close to an edge and I reach the middle of that edge, you'll see that it kind of snaps where that edge is. So I'm going to use that to create a middle line that separates the top from the bottom, or the back from the front part. And then I'm going to add one last set of vertices around here so that they create a little double border to preserve the line that I very deviously added to I added a line art and I need to preserve that line art that otherwise would get squashed when I'm going to shrink that part to create the little wave effect. Okay, so this is going to be our structure for today. Nothing too complex, but it's going to help us retain the overall lines while still allowing for some room for the formation of the liquids. We'll need a bone that controls this whole portion, so it holds it basically, which I'll call liquid top, and I can place in the middle of this. So I think I'm gonna select liquid top and choose new bone, which will create a bone in the middle of these. I'm going to place it more in the middle because I need it to be like this, very centered. I'm going to create another bone. So this is going to allow us to move this whole section up and down. So if I disable bone and images, okay, I can move this whole thing up and down. That's great. Okay, this is going to control the liquid level, and then I'm going to create a new bone where that is. I'm going to duplicate this, and then I'm gonna place it inside. So they are the same, and this is going to be the top. So one I'll use to move the liquid. Another one I'm going to control the top of the liquid itself. I'll definitely need to also add a bone that will be placed in front. That will be my liquid top control. Now let's call it control because that's what it is. And then another one in the back, that would be my liquid inverse because it will move in reverse. I'll create a constraint that chains the inverse so it's forced to follow top control. Create new transform constraint and target the control. Liquid top control, that's okay. I'll match the position and then I'm gonna set the translation. But to what? Usually I set it to -100 and -100. Now this time I'm going to set it to -100 and -50. So it doesn't go too much outside of the bowl. That's why it's not a full 100 in this case. So it's not like we're forced to always have both at the same amount. I care more about it moving laterally than I do that it moves up and down. Okay, so we got that to work. How about we change some icons, maybe some colors? if we look at the test animation, not much is actually brewing for now. In fact, we still need to bind the mesh so it follows the right weights. I'm going to bind it so it follows the front, the back, and then it needs to follow Liquit top. We're going to get it to also have a physics constraint. So we're going to add a physics constraint to Liquit top control so that it can move right out of the box. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You can see that thanks to the structure that we got, the liquid has already a nice, interesting kind of movement. This is certainly not perfect yet. So I'm going to pause for a moment and I'm going to get this specifically to tilt so it's the ugliest possible version of itself, so that I have a nice thing to control, to work on. Okay, I'm gonna re-enable image selection so that I can click on this, then disable it again. Great. Then I need to select the weights tool, and then I'm going to change some weights. Here, I don't need the sides to move that much. In fact, I can just have them be fully controlled by the bone that is not gonna move, so Liquit top. So anchor them in place, let them be nice, like this. Great. Then the automatic weights are actually overall fine, I would say. We don't need, for sure, in here, the influence. We don't need any influence of, for example, in here, the inverse has no place. And in here, the top control also has no place. So then I'm going to select them in a line, and I'm going to get an in-between influence of Liquit top, maybe until here. So see that this part peeks out here, and that's not great. That is why I am going to turn that part of the liquid into a mesh so that I can get this part to be a bit more hidden. Yeah, so I guess something like this is okay. And then I'm going to select these middle parts. So see, when we simplify it this way, it's actually very simple to apply the weights. Okay, and maybe like this. Could have it like this, yeah, or maybe something like this, so it's not too pushed. Maybe this can be stronger like this, so that it's not pushed too far. So the liquid now is definitely more interesting. It could also rotate a little bit and wave. So I think I'm gonna change one of the bones so that it can also wobble sideways. I'm going to change this bone. Now, if I assign to my Liquit top bone a length, it will be oriented in the wrong direction. Very not nice. Oh no, it already has the correct direction. I am very pleased. I did not expect that. Okay, so I don't need to make any changes actually. And if I go here on my Liquit top control, you see that it has translation, but it does not have rotation. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna give it a little bit of rotation. Let me open again the preview view so I can see this. I feel like it doesn't need to move laterally. And I only want it to move up and down to maximize the effect of the liquid wobbling. And instead I want to increase the rotation sideways. Oh yes! Now it's doing that nice wobble. Okay, I'll show you. To the maximum it's like this, but this maximum is too strong in my opinion. When it is off, it is like this, which is kind of vanilla. It's fine, I mean, yeah. So I'll get it to be an in-between. 40 it is. Okay, so it's subtle, it's doing its thing. Let's get the liquid to be more liquidy. So one thing that I want is to make sure that this does not go outside of the limits. And in fact, I remember that when I did this, I had to change the liquid motion here. Yeah, because if I move it too much, you see, okay, I'll show you, that the liquid goes a little bit outside of the bounds. If you look closely with the eyes of your heart, because it's hard to see, you can see that the liquid sometimes goes outside of the bounds I tried to limit it to. So I need to limit that. How can I do that? I want the liquid to be as wobbly as it is within a certain range, but then like enough is enough. How do I do that? By changing the limit here. I'm going to set it to something much more conservative, such as 700, like this. Now when it is moved, a lot. Okay, you can see that it is touching almost there, but it is not going outside as much, which for me is enough. Okay, then for sure I need to change some of the settings here. So you see that now it flashes red sometimes. You don't have to worry about that. This flash only means that the limit is being enforced. So it's cool. It means that the limit is working at the moment. Okay, because some people asked, oh no, why is it flashing red? Is it bad? It means that it's working. So the damping is one of the first things that I want to see. So if I make it super slow, the liquid will take a ton of time to go back to its original position. If I make it like wobbly to the maximum, something like this, it will be super wobbly. Okay, it's actually more noticeable in other. Okay, I'm gonna set to 5 because it's a nice in between. Then if I give it okay, I can change the inertia. So if I give it a stronger inertia, it will stay more in the original place, which is not bad. Or I can get it to be a tad lower, so it is quicker. Let's see, off, it's like this, basically. On, it's like this. And what did I set it to? I set it to something around 30, I think. Okay, so this is going to be our setting. The other interesting part, which is how do we get the liquid to be dynamic, etc. We said that we can have various colors, and by the way, if I don't want to redo all this work and I know that blue and red are a color of white, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna be deleting the skins blue and red. So first I'll create the mesh and then I'll show you this trick. So for this, I mentioned the fact that I don't like seeing this part too much. So I'm turning it to a mesh just so I can lower it a little bit. So if I do it this way, as you see, it resizes the whole thing, breaks it. So I'm going to add in the mesh. I want to modify the position of this until it reaches that nice middle line. I think that's here. So I'm cutting away a little part, and that's it. Okay, then with this, I am now ready to delete blue and red. And then when I select white, I want it to be the source of the other meshes, but use the other images sets that I have. I'm gonna choose, select the white skin, then press the duplicate button. And then instead of white 2, I'm gonna call this blue. And I'm gonna enable linked meshes, and then I'm gonna check rename attachments. That will make it fetch the other images set that I already had. So it uses the images and it's already rigged. Don't you love it when you don't have to redo the work twice? Then I'm gonna duplicate again, and I'm gonna call it red and rename the attachments. And I have a red version. Then let's honor the pink squad. Let's also make a pink version. This time I don't have a set of images, so I'm gonna call this pink and not rename the attachments. If I did, which I'm gonna show you, it has missing images. That's not great, because we don't have images inside a pink folder. So I'm gonna undo that, and I'm simply gonna duplicate it, but without renaming the attachments. So now I have a copy that is like this, and I'm gonna tint it so it's a pretty pink. How? I'm going to select liquid full that I have in here, and then I'm gonna change the color so it's a pretty pink. It's gonna be pretty enough. And then the top, let's make it pink. You know, I actually really dislike pink. In real life, I never wear pink, but I don't mind it, like for the people of the pink squad. Yeah, pink squad. No way, Gooby, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I love this pink that I chose for that. So I'm gonna copy it, and then I'm gonna apply it also here. I can also go wild, have different shades. I think more saturated is the way. Okay, I think I got the perfect shade of pink. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm gonna save. Other colors, let's make a green one for our tint here. White, let's duplicate that. I'll call it green, so we have all the colors. Linked meshes, perfect. And let's make it green. So same logic. Oh, I love this color. I'm gonna use this. And for this part, I'll make it more intense. Okay, that's it. And you can see them animated too. Super. Okay, so basically this is what I did offline. Plus, I also made the liquid dynamics, so let's see that part too. So here comes the lesson about clipping. Clipping is one of those things that I usually scare you about using, because clipping can be very dangerous. What is it that makes clipping dangerous? I'll show you some dangerous clipping and then some good clipping, so it's a moment where we'll discuss for a moment the metrics. Okay, the metrics are a very useful tool that tells us about the state of our project. Are we doing good? Are we doing bad? We can tell by having a look at the metrics. So we see 7 bones, very good. 11 bone transforms, also very good. Constraints only 4. Wow, that's actually really low, right? 18 slots, that's a project that uses a fantastically low amount of resources, actually. Okay, then it has an actually big area because I used huge assets, but that it's okay. Remember that I have a kind of aversion against the usage of deformed vertices. Why? Because they are like compounding the problems that we can have when we also combine them with clipping. Now, how can we get a good or a bad clipping? Let's see. Now, I have the root here. I'll choose new, clipping. I'll call these, just for the example, I'll call it clip. And then I'll make a bad clipping at first. So bad clipping person would do this. It would create here the clipping, and then to create the clipping around the liquid, a bad clipping person would do something like this. This is something that I have seen over the years, done and done many times. Now let's look. 22 vertices. How many triangles? 52 triangles. What does that mean? Is that these 52 triangles are applied, in this case, to the whole skeleton. Now, this is a tiny skeleton, so it's not a huge issue. Each triangle is compared against every triangle that we have in our project to determine if it should be visible or not. So when I go outside, I have masked everything inside this project. Actually, you know what? This does not explain the horrors of clipping. I'm going to show you an example of good and bad clipping on a different project. This project actually has some vertices. Specifically, this mesh has 157. Now, how can we make a bad clipping and better clipping but not so great? Okay, bad clipping will be something that is used for the entirety of the skeleton and is also used at random. So if you're just doing this for a video, ignore completely what I'm saying because it does not matter. If instead you're going to use this at runtime, clipping is super expensive operation if used wrongly. If you use it correctly, then it's something that is as good as anything else to use. Okay, so important distinction. It's not bad to use clipping. It's only bad if you use it badly. Now, how can we use clipping bad? Because I'm hyping this so much. I'll select the root and I'll do the worst clipping once again. I'm gonna use it enough so they never use it. No, I'm going to show you. So I'll first create clipping, then I'll rename them. So a bad clipping is something that you'll try to use on your whole skeleton. Let's say, okay, it's going to be like this because you sort of want to create a portrait of Spine Boy riding on top of the raptor, right? Okay, we got our portrait of Spine Boy on top of the raptor, but look, the clipping in question here has 18 vertices. I could have added more just to make it worse. So it has 753 triangles that it is checking, and our clip polygons are 5. Oh, it's actually, okay, let's make it worse. Now it's 6 because it needs more triangles. So if I give it some weird shape like this, it's even worse, okay, because it needs more triangles to do the same thing. Then, what's the problem? The triangles that are being clipped are 5,271, which are the triangles that are inside the whole skeleton. This number here is why the clipping can become bad. Okay, this is why it becomes heavy at runtime. This is why people beg you, no, please don't use clipping like that. I'll rename this to clip evil. Let's make it even more evil. Start adding tons of these vertices here. Just a few more vertices I added here increased by a lot the number of clip triangles. So what do we learn from here? The lower number of vertices we use on a clipping directly influences the result, and so the lower the better. So let's make a good clipping. I'll call it good clip. Let's say that we need a portrait of this. I'll make a simple portrait of this. Maybe it's like this. So clipping cannot have curves, so in any case you're going to be forced to have straight lines and it cannot be blurred, etc. The good clipping instead, because it has a lower number of vertices and therefore triangles, clipping polygons here are 9, here it's just one big polygon. And the clip triangles, so those triangles that need to be compared, etc., are in this case 753 and in this case 6,000. However, we can still improve things. How can we improve a clipping? So at first, whenever it's not enabled, it's not gonna be calculated. So instead, maybe, or when it's not needed, don't leave the clipping unnecessarily on. Then we'll create our little clipped animation. And we'll enable the clipping so we can compare things. Well, one first advice that I have for you, if you're in a situation where you absolutely need to have this sort of evil clipping, but you need to improve the performance, is deactivate every mesh and every image that is not going to be visible within this space here to improve the performance. So here, I disable this. Look, it was 6,777 and now it is 6,255. That's awesome! It's already better, and just by disabling one mesh. Let's disable also the other one, which is not visible, and now it's not 6,000 anymore, it's 5,000. That's great! Can we disable other stuff? Maybe the back arm, which is not visible. Is this a back arm? Awesome. Then I'm gonna disable that, and as you see, this number gets lower and lower. Another thing that we can do to improve the clipping is, if we don't need the clipping to affect all of our skeleton, we can get it to affect only what we want. So if the clipping, instead of encompassing everything, only encompasses what you need, for example like this, and so some parts don't need to be clipped, then this reduces the number of triangles that need to be compared, made transparent, etc, etc. Does this mean that if, for example, I limit this to only affect, I don't know, spine boy or some other part here, then the clipping is going to be more performant? The answer is yes. So if, for example, I got the clipping, instead of ending here, I'm gonna make it end at the neck of spine boy for some reason. So clip evil, I'll change where the clipping ends, which is this end slot property here. I'll click it here, then I'll select this neck as the end slot. When I go back here, look, even if I have a super complex clipping, because what I'm clipping is just this little area that we can see here, it's 3 slots, then the number of clip triangles is much more reasonable, as it's just 18. It still has a big clipping polygon, but it's not as heavy. Alright, so this should help you be a little less scared and maybe understand more how clipping works. Hopefully, now you have understood that just having a big clipping polygon around your whole project is bad, and it's best to limit the clipping to the area that you need. Now, with this information, we're going to go back to our potion and create the most optimal clipping that we can have. I'll get it to be a child of the liquid, so it rotates with the liquid itself, and I'll create a new clipping. I'll call it liquid clip. Wow, so much fantasy. Here a vertex, here another vertex, here and here, and I'm going to adjust it so that it encompasses this whole area. So I think I'm gonna get them to be at the same height. I'm going to copy the 2 vertices that I have here, which I know are straight, copy them, and then I'm going on the liquid clip in world axis here, and I'm going to select 1 and 2 and paste. Super. And then I'm just gonna get them distant enough until I see the level of the water in the right place. Okay, that's gonna be it. One single triangle, one single polygon, the most optimized thing. Then we see that it has 52 clip triangles. Of course, we don't need to clip the whole thing. We're going to limit it so that it only affects my liquid here. And so I'm gonna make it end at the liquid slot here. Now I'm gonna be finding liquid clip. I'm going to be changing the add slot, and I'm gonna tell it ends here. Voila! Now I only have 2 clip triangles, which are the inside of these. Oh, so what happens if I don't make it a mesh? Yeah, it changes nothing, so it does not matter. How does the drawing order work with the clip? The draw order is what determines what is being clipped or not. So it's actually very important. I'm placing the clip right below what I want to clip, and then where I want it to end, I'll set it as the end clip like this. I'll be creating something to control the level of the liquid. These clips here can also be weighted. So we can get the clip to be weighted at the bottom to the main liquid bone, and then on the top to liquid top. I'll bind that. Now I remember why I needed another bone. Well, I'm going to show you this and then I'll create the additional bone. The problem that arises here is that I want these to be able to go lower, but as it goes low, it needs to increase in size until here before shrinking again. So I need another bone for it. So I'll call this liquid top scale. And then I'll create another bone, new bone, which I'll just call liquid top, which I'll use to move the level of the liquid. Okay, and I'll reparent them like this. And I'm going to take liquid clip and bind it instead of liquid top scale to liquid top. So I'll bind it and remove liquid top scale. Okay, then let's assign the weights. We said the bottom will need to follow the main liquid. The top is going to be controlled by the level of the liquid top. So like this. Now when I go in animate mode, if I try to move this liquid up and down using liquid top, I get the effect that the liquid is shrinking like this. If I go beyond, it will start hiding what it's not supposed to be hiding, but as long as it is at the limit that I set, it is alright. So all that's left at this point is to get this middle part to also be large where it needs to be large, and smaller when it needs to be smaller, which I guess could be also achieved with some shenanigans involving more bones. But in this case, let's keep this project simple because it's already a bit complex as it is. I'm going to create a new animation that I'll call liquid leveled. I'm going to have a little animation where it starts from here, and I'll translate that bone down. So then it reaches around here, so that's gonna be our maximum. Then maybe I keep it there for a little bit, and then I'll get it to be on top again, and then maybe stay a little bit longer there. Then I'm going to make this potion enlarge and shrink where it needs, and for this I'm gonna use the bone that I created earlier, top scale. So I'm gonna key the scale here and here where it is fine as it is, and I'm going to get it at around the middle, which I think is this, and scale it till it reaches the part that I want. Then I don't like the placement of the liquid here, so I'm going to adjust it a little bit so it covers that part and it looks nice. I'm gonna key the translation here too. Can I get it with curves? Let's see. So that the scale, when it's here, it's a bit more dynamic. Actually, like this, it's perfect. Then when it reaches here, the end, is this the end? Yeah, okay. I'm going to shrink it till it has the right size. I'm gonna at first copy this, but then I'm gonna shrink it further so it touches one of the borders again. Okay, we can say that this is going to be the version where it is consumed. This is fine, but I want the liquid top to be a bit lower, so more like this. Yeah, needs to be lower, so I'm gonna copy this. And then here where I have the scale, I'm gonna adjust it, okay, till it has the correct scale. I'm just gonna translate it slightly up maybe. Yeah, that's gonna be okay. So this is my number. I decided that that works for me. I'm gonna paste it here. I'm gonna paste also this in the middle because I already know that it works. And then I'm gonna copy these keys that I had here at the beginning, also here. I need to have similar curves, so I'll go in the graph. I'll also apply curves like this, like very randomly. It's the other handle that I need, so I'm gonna zoom in. Okay, I would say that that is fine. And then when it increases, I'm gonna use the same trick. And then in here, I'm gonna adjust once again the curves. Let's check. And I got it nice. Here I could probably improve it. Yeah, it's looking nice. Okay, so now we have the potion level changing. And on top of that, if we look at it from the preview view, we could combine the animation where this is happening with the liquid changing. I'll set the limit to 700 once again, so it does not go outside. Let's see. Oh, almost. Let's do it to 600. Good, now it's inside. Let's make the potion change color since we can. Call it color changing. We'll require the white version of the potion to work, and I'm going to set some colors. It's gonna be super easy. Colors can only be animated, not on the attachments, which however can be set in different skins. They have to be applied to the slots because it's where they can be animated. Here I'm gonna apply the color. I'll start with red. Let's make a pretty red. Oh, that's a pretty color. Ah, it's really magical, right? And I don't want to repeat this keying process, so I'm just going to paste it here. So now it's applied. Now the exact same color, I feel like it doesn't work as well as on the other parts. So I think I'm gonna adjust the colors so they are just right. Okay, make the red a deeper red, orange like this, so it's perfect. Ah, look at this, the potion is changing colors. Now I'm going to also have a couple of pre-made versions where the levels of the potions are being set, because I imagine that in this animation, maybe you have a potion in a corner of the UI, and as the character collects more things, it raises level. So for example, from 1 till 30, okay, that's where it empties, but from 40 to 70, actually the whole animation could be just this little portion here, and this is the 0. This is the 100% of the thing full, for example. It could work like that. Drinking urge intensifies. Remember to hydrate. I'm going to create at least 3 levels. So for example, liquid full. I'm gonna paste here the version where it is full. Okay, then I'm gonna add liquid half. Also create already the liquid low. Okay, so here's my half version, which I'm gonna key everything, but then undo because I don't actually need all the keys, and paste it in the half version, so it's at half. And then in the low version, I'm going to go here where it's the minimum, copy that, and paste it here. Now, when I go in the preview view, I can also set, instead of these constantly changing, I could have it be low all the time. So it's low by changing colors. So it's dynamic and it's so cool. Or we could have it in half, like this. But it would be better to have a transition, so it works. A transition animation. Or we could have it full. And then I go from full to half. This potion also has a cracked version. So maybe you broke the potion and it goes like this. It also has some bubbles that I could animate. Where are the bubbles? Here are the bubbles. I'm gonna activate them. And we could have them inside, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'll add it in a final version. Maybe I'll just animate at least a version that has sparkles, sparkly sparkles, like this. And it's like you find the potion, drink it, and then make use of it. Yeah, that would be very common in games. That maybe you find the potion and it's here ready to be taken. Then maybe you take it, you drink it, and it's disposed. That would be, yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna be doing. So to animate the sparkles, I'm gonna add 2 new bones. There they are. They are not centered. Oh no, they are centered. Is my art not centered? It is. Interesting. So I'm gonna move this so they are centered to me using compensation. Did this center it also here? More or less. Yeah. I'm gonna call it maybe idle. So I'm going to be doing the usual where we just make it float up and down. Why not? Looks great. Here it's going to float up, play. Yeah, that's how we find them in games, right? They just float up and down, maybe even less than that. So I'm gonna pause here. Let's move it. Yeah, like this. Let's see now. Yeah, that's the movement. Great. And then I'm gonna also rotate it like this and then like this. Copy and paste. So now it's doing this, which is kind of lame, right? But then I'm gonna apply curves, which make everything better. And then I'm gonna offset them. Usually something like this looks fine. It's like, yee-haw. Even if it's more centered, even better. I like it. So I think I'm gonna remove the keys that I have here and then just use here the arrow key, here twice, and then copy and paste this. Apply curves again, and then offset so it's centered. So it's a little bit less, a bit more subtle. The magic. I think I should animate instead a container for this thing. So I'm gonna create a new bone, which I'm gonna call potion container, that I'm gonna use to move everything up and down. And then I'm gonna just rotate the round glass there. So I'm gonna cut the keys from here and instead apply them to potion container. And of course, to complete this, I have to reparent the sparks so they are under, not the root, under potion container. There! They move with the potion, it could be alright. I think I'm gonna leave here this. Okay, so the sparkles are not moving with it. And then I'm gonna animate the sparkles on their own. But still following, like, if I move the container, everything moves with it. So first of all, do you know how to make a full rotation in Spine? That is super simple. You key whatever they are this. And then at the end of the animation, to have a full rotation, you just type in local axis plus 360 or plus minus. Okay, like this. Now they rotate like this. They are very cute. If I want them to rotate in opposite directions, instead of having that plus 360, I'll type plus minus 360. And now they rotate in opposite directions. And now they rotate opposite ways. I don't like them rotating, however. Sparkles should be pretty and shiny. They should move. I'm gonna get this one to translate. Maybe from here to the outside. Maybe like this. That's lame for now. Let's apply some curves. Maybe let's have it faster. And then instead of like kind of hanging there, I want it to be transparent in the beginning. Kind of appearing here. But here it needs to be still not visible. Then you see it. Maximum amount of see it. And then it disappears. Let's also get it to scale so that maybe it starts by being more modest and then it enlarges. Sorry if it has been suggested already, but the light reflections could be on a separate layer and not inherit rotations. Actually, I tested that at home. I tested it these days. If I place them as potion container, they are not gonna move with it. I should need a separate bone for that. You are right, but I did not like the effect, like it was too static when I did that. So in the end, I ended up not having it like that in the original setup that I had. And reparent the reflections here. So I was doing this, which wasn't really bad, but for some reason I did not like it. So I ended up not using it. What do you think, chat? Should the reflection follow or not follow the glass? Because like this, it makes sense if the light is static. However, I remember that I did not like the effect. I'm open to suggestions, and this is when it follows everything. It's like it's painted on top. Maybe it could follow at a slower pace. You could follow, but less. Yes, I was thinking the same. Follow just a little bit. All right, then. It's decided. I'm going to add a new bone that shall be, okay, new bone should be placed again where that parent is. I'll call these reflections glass, and then I'm gonna parent the reflection to it, and then I'm gonna add a new transform constraint that targets the round glass, but I'll call these reflections And then I'll get it to, then I'm gonna set it like this. Let's see the effect at first. So this is at 50%. All right, needs to translate, however, with it. Let's see now. I mean, it's not bad. It's 50 of the original rotation. All right, let's keep it this way. We need also the other sparkles to work. So if instead I want this maybe to do it twice, I can simply copy. Maybe I'll also Ctrl-Shift-L this. Okay, copy and paste. So it does it twice. I could also just apply the same here. Yeah, it's working. But I have to change where it starts and stops. I'll go back here, paste. And the starting point needs to be here. Then it needs to go outside, which is going to be here, like the little shuriken it is. And then I'm going to copy the colors that I had here, and apply them to this slot, so I don't have to repeat it. Beautiful. And I'll simply copy and paste this animation. Okay, want to make it more interesting, I could, if I simply duplicated these two sparkles and then maybe I offset them. Actually, at first, I need them to point in different parts so that they end in different places. Maybe here, oh, maybe here, just to have variation. Oh, that was number 2. Ctrl-Shift-L and then paste this. And now I'm going to offset these ones and then I'll be done. Now I have sparkles. Okay, so that's our potion, enticing us to drink it. Let's also have it be drinked. So I'll call it drink. I'm actually gonna be disabling all of them in here unless they are required. So in the idle, I'm going to activate them, and then when they need to be drinked, I finally can animate the cork, etc. For the cork, I'm going to select it, choose new bone. So I have a bone for the cork, so I'll have it start maybe from here. Then we raise it a little bit, key the translation, and then move it up. Then it starts with a normal scale, but when it's drinked, I also need to enable scale for the reflection. You get to be scaled to 100. We'll separate the cork. Okay, then I can translate it from here to up. When it goes up, it just disappears. So cork, it has this visibility, which is very visible until here, and then it simply vanishes and then is unloaded. It's important to unattach the images once they are transparent, because otherwise they keep being calculated in memory. So you want to remember to also make them not visible anymore. And maybe I'll enlarge it just to simulate it getting closer to us. So scale, and when it's scaled here, I just make it bigger. That's ridiculously bigger. It's like it's hitting us in the face. Let's not. Okay, let's get it here, a little less. I also kind of want the liquid, etc. to have a more interesting movement than what I did. Like maybe it goes up, but well, of course we need curves. But also I'll translate this and then it goes back to where it was. Yeah, but at a slower pace. Okay, so it gets to do some nicer animation. Maybe it rotates while it's doing that. So it starts like this and then it does this and then it's back straight. I don't know. Yeah, because I did not add a key at the beginning. Yeah, it looks like someone is forcing the cork. So I guess it's working. And then it's corkless. And we drink it. It just magically gets drinked and it lowers. So from full, it will go towards half by drinking it. So I'll go to the liquid level changing. I'll do this. I'll just copy. I'll add the keys here. Copy the keys, undo. And then in the drink here, I'm gonna paste it here. It looks like I pasted only half of the animation. So I need to go here, press the space bar aggressively, otherwise it does not work. I'm kidding. And then I'm going back here pasting this here. Oh, by the way, the triangle does not have to be as small. It can be also like ridiculously big, like this, and it would still count the same towards performance, which is something I haven't specified earlier. So it can also be like this, and it will work. And then I see that in games, sometimes, to represent something being drunk, you have to sort of do the little scale animation where it pulses, basically. So we're gonna be doing that. Pulses gets bigger and then slightly smaller, and then back to how it was. I did not change the scale. Okay, something was weird. That's too much. How about like this? Yeah. It has to glue, right? Yeah, it's glue time. So there, maybe it gets drunk twice. And then it looks like it has been drunk. Maybe I make the cork reappear because you're closing that again. Why not? It has become so elaborate. I have to reattach it at that point. Thanks, cork. Pick. And it's back in place. Very silly. We're gonna be virtually drunk after this. Oh, absolutely. Did you not notice? But it does give you a sense of something being drunk, doesn't it? There, you drank it and then you put it away. Maybe with some pauses in between here. So this could be a whole animation, but actually be split in the several phases. And then it goes back to normal. So back to being here, like this. I'll Ctrl-Shift-L it. And then paste it here. And then between these two, I'm gonna apply curves. Cork, so it starts its translation from here. It can also be like around this level of scale. Scale and translation, I like them. So I'm just gonna key them here, get them to do this. And it just goes back to normal like this. And there we have this potion that is being drunk. If we remove the color changing, which I forgot where I applied, that's my baby, then we see it moving around. We can also get the liquid to be at different levels, so full, half, low, etc. Then we can have an idle animation here. That it's also moving, but there's no need to actually move it. And it's doing it with various colors. That's pretty much it. Here we see it with all of its components. As you saw, the triangle, it's important that you have very low vertices and that you only clip what you need, and then it will be good using these very scary, but not so much after all, clipping. Thank you so much for following until now the stream. That's the end of today's session. So if you have assets that you would like to see me rig, well, and that you are okay with sharing with everyone else, because I like to make these downloads available from everyone so everyone can benefit from these streams, feel free to propose them on the Discord, on the forum, and I would love to have more material, especially if they are things that I have not done before on stream, and rig it. I'll also remind you that there's a challenge going on. Maybe I'll do the challenge next. On the unofficial Spine Discord, where there's a lovely bear that has 3 directions that you can try to rig. So I think that would be very interesting also to try. If you try to do your own versions of the potion, and I encourage you to, I would love to see what you end up creating. Thank you again for being on stream now, and bye bye.